Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties, sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Gore with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it
up. Hey, this is Gore with your black tea sip. It is State Fair of Texas Friday. I cannot wait. I hope that the marching band will be out there again. James Madison High School. They used to do it pre-COVID. I'm hoping they do it again. And for those of you that are not fortunate enough to live in the great state of Texas, you know, with Governor Hot Wheels, it is State Fair. It is the largest state fair in the United States. It's in Dallas, Texas. I cannot wait. My son has asked me every day for the past 2 weeks about going to the fair, and the day is finally here. So, you melanated beauties, if you see me out there in those State Fair of Texas streets, go on and give your girl a shout out. So, listen, it is not surprising to the melanation that America, 3Ks, is racist. I mean, growing up in Dallas, you know that racism is alive and well. I mean, it is the springboard for the Ku Klux Klan. It is the place, the birthplace, the home of the Klan that was originally called the White Knights. And they stole because, you know, people that lie and cheat and murder and rape, pillage, loot, plunder, they steal. So they stole their uniforms from the Knights Templar, you know, and they hook-boogied, you know, this symbolism of fear with some bed sheets and pillowcases. And they went around the United States striking fear into minorities, black, brown, yellow, and red people. You see how they give everybody a color? White was purity, and then everything else after that was bad. And then, of course, if you black, you know, I mean, Satan spawn. So here we are living past all of that. I mean, we're in Jim Crow 2.0, but past, you know, the original Jim Crow, like Granddaddy Jim Crow. And we get there, and, you know, we got a black vice president. We had a black president. I mean, you know, surely black folks have arrived. Unless you're an overweight black woman who happens to be a flautist. Now, Lizzo, say what you want to about him, and you know I have, is extremely talented. She plays more than one instrument. She can sing. She can write. She can't really dance, but we're just going to let her be a triple, quadruple threat anyway, even though without the dancing part. And she was invited by a lady last name, her name is Carla Hayden, who not only is the first woman head librarian of Congress, but is the first black person. And she tweeted to Lizzo and said, hey, when you come to D.C. for your show, swing by and play some of our flutes. Lizzo, of course, says, oh, my God, sure. I mean, you know, in my mind, this is what Lizzo says. Oh, my God, I would love to. Tweet, tweet, tweet. So this is what people don't know, because I didn't know it either. In the Library of Congress, there is an entire room dedicated to flutes. Now, I tried to play the flute. I almost passed out. It takes a lot of wind. Maybe I'm just too little. No tea, no shade. Don't say nothing about me talking about Lizzo and her size. I'm simply saying I am a small person. This is the biggest I've ever been. I weigh 120 pounds. I tried to play the flute. It requires a lot of air. I like to fell out. Baby, you got to be a bigger person to play the flute, because Lizzo can play the hell out of a flute. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Y'all do what y'all want to with it, but I am not body shaming her. I might be wind shaming myself, but I'm not body shaming Lizzo. So Lizzo shows up at the Library of Congress. Now, you know what the Library of Congress is, right? It is where every single document and or artifact that is tied to history in some political way or some historic way that has such recognition that it is trademarked or copywritten, handed down, passed down, stored, saved, remembered, nostalgia, reminiscent of a time that helps tell who America, 3Ks, is. It is at the Library of Congress. Okay, we got that done. So Lizzo shows up to play the flute. Let's play the clip of Lizzo playing the flute at the Library of Congress, because I don't have to make this stuff up.
It won't let me do it. Sorry, James Madison and Miss White. Listen, Miss Madison. All right, I'm gonna just give you this. And this was a gift to James Madison from a French crystal flute designer to celebrate his second term. There was a fire when he was away, and the only two things that were saved was a portrait of George Washington and this crystal flute right here. I am the first person.
Okay, so you see Lizzo on stage, right? So we'll get to that. Now, before y'all come for me and tell me I tried to body shame her, did you see how she could blow on that flute? I was not body shaming Lizzo. I came to, like I run out of air. So Lizzo plays the flute at the Library of Congress. Okay. She then does a show. You saw a portion of that. She does a show where someone is physically there to hand her this crystal flute and then take it back from her and take it away back to the Library of Congress. Okay? So she's on stage for her concert before the masses to play the flute. Let's play the other clip of her at her show playing the flute that they asked her to come and play.
A gift to James Madison from a French crystal flute designer to celebrate his second term. There was a fire when he was away, and the only two things that were saved was a portrait of George Washington and this crystal flute right here. I am the first person to ever play it, so y'all are about to hear what it sounds like for the first time. And it's crystal, it's like playing out of a wine glass. So be patient.
Okay, you can stop it. Okay, so you see Lizzo on stage. Now, listen. I'm not here to talk about what she had on or what she didn't have on. I'm not here to talk about that part. Lizzo likes to be free and naked. She is literally a nudist, and she just hasn't found a colony. So Lizzo plays the flute. Now, this brings me to America with 3Ks. Al Gore's internet, the white supremacist part of it, goes apeshit crazy and starts to vilify her for being the first person to ever play it. Historically, no one has ever said anything about her about anyone else playing this flute. They lose their proverbial poop over it, and they go crazy. They talk about her size. They talk about her clothing. Now, I'm gonna say this part, and I'm probably gonna get in trouble. With some of the stuff they said wasn't untrue. I mean, she was out. She's a big woman, and she was half naked on stage in front of thousands of people. So that's not untrue. So let's not stop there, because many of y'all tried to say you body shaming and this and that. Stay on task, baby. Stay on task. That is not the issue. Here is the issue. The issue is Lizzo is a classically trained flautist. That is what you're supposed to say. Not flutist, flautist. Lizzo is a classically trained flautist who's got a lot of wind and can play the hell out of the flute. This is not because she was half naked on stage. This is not because she is a very full-figured, robust-sized woman. This is because she is black, and there is no other reason. Aside from that, I want to offer this little public service announcement to my full-figured sisters. Lizzo is losing weight. She has not told y'all, but she is, in fact, losing weight. So y'all can stop now. You can cut that out. She's losing weight. She's losing weight because someone told her it wasn't healthy. Now, she's still going out here half naked, but she's losing weight because someone somewhere, once upon a time in the land of fairy tales, forgiveness, and stop that, told her that that was not appropriate to celebrate being unhealthy. You can say, well, how do you know she's not healthy? Too much weight on your joints, too much fat around your heart, too much fat around your lungs, too much. She's got to perform. She needs to, and listen, the girl is talented, but she's got to be able to perform and keep that up, and weight stops you from doing that. If you eat too many French fries, it's going to stop you from doing that too, if you're a small person. But in this particular case, she is a performer, and she is losing weight. And all of you that are running around here with your bellies out and in Daisy Duke shorts and stuff is hanging out of them, and you look like you got hair damage, just stop. I know people are going to fuss and complain and talk about me. Do what you will. The truth don't care who tells it. Stop. Lizzo is losing weight. I'm not saying you got to lose weight. You happy? Great. But do not use her as your roadmap to nakedness, because she is losing weight. And at the Library of Congress, she did have some skin covered, but she also knows where to go and what to wear when. Y'all are at the eye doctor naked. Stop. Lizzo's losing weight. Okay, so we got that out the way. So here's my point. So here she is, a black woman, extremely talented, by all means is successful. I mean, if we have to do the tally marks and check the boxes, she ranks success, right? Al Gore's internet, the white supremacist portion of it, goes apeshit crazy. First we had the Little Mermaid, now Lizzo. And you're saying, okay, well, why should I be concerned? Maybe you shouldn't, but I want to leave you with this. The United States of America has never been anything other than racism. It is ingrained into the very fabric of who we are. When the Statue of Liberty came over from France and it said, give us your tired, your hungry, your huddled masses, probably should have been a question mark, because the huddled masses were not the enslaved. So those who were forcibly settled in this country, and those that were already in this country that were forcibly settled elsewhere, are not included in that. America is not a melting pot. It is a tossed salad, and the salad dressing is hatred, bigotry, misogyny, and bigotry. That is America. Now, there are plenty of us that are seeds, and even though they try to bury us, we grow. That happens. But America as a whole does not want to see black, brown, yellow, red people succeed. What America has done, and taking it from the Spanish conquistadors, is allow you a certain level of success based on how light you are. Lizzo's too dark to be a flautist for the white supremacists. So they attacked her on every level. Haley Bailey, whose grandmother is Nina Simone, should know firsthand from her grandmother's journals, songs, and interviews exactly how black people were treated in this country, and a dark-skinned black woman at that. Where we are right now in America, because of social media and the internet, is really on point about what America is, who she is, and what she wants. If Lizzo playing that flute was a problem for them because it was an artifact, it was crystal, and she was the first person to play it in approximately 200 years. It is only because the crystal flute belonged to James Madison. Now, she alluded to it when she said that made it, and the portrait of George Washington. That's not necessarily true. I'm sorry to call her out. That's not completely accurate. Those two things did make it out. However, they were saved not by James Madison, the president, who was running away from the British Army from the War of 1812. That's not why I made it out. Give me a like, share this. We're going to take a quick break and come back, and I'm going to tell you why. This is Gore with the Black Tea Sip. Oak Cliff, stand up.
Yeah, yeah, I wanna be, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I wanna be, yeah. I wanna be, yeah. You keep on asking me where I wanna be. I wanna be next to you. Baby, I'm thankful for the game that you're teaching me. I take it to heart. I want a piece of you. I wanna be yours. I wanna know what you're thinking.
Do you want to find a stable job in a growing field? IT jobs such as network systems administrators, cybersecurity, programming, cloud, and computer systems analyst are expected to increase 25% by 2022. Texas Premier Technology Institute offers training for top certifications such as CompTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft in less than 12 weeks. And if you're unemployed or underemployed, you may qualify for free tuition. Contact TPTI at 1-888-490-TPTI or check them out on the web at tpti.us.
Yeah, if you came to get some real music with a real vibe, then you came to the right spot. You know what it is. 99.9. It's DJ Candy Can. Here with Loose Cannons. Letting y'all know we about to do this like a fresh pair of lokes on Easy E.
Bass light.
Shade.
Let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool. Ice cold. Let me put my shades on. Yeah. It's cooler than being cool. Two froze, shades on. I guess you get what you asked for. You can't bullshit the matador. I see the sunset, I see the shore. To the core concrete, I go hard when the doors. When it rains, pain. Club a lame, no shame. Cop back game, Bob gun, go bang. Top hat cane, come a bun, 2 chains. Looking like a Millie, having fun, Lil Wayne. I've been this way since I paid for my school grades. By the pool, sipping Kool-Aid. We shake in the finger waves. Play dates in the backseat, bitch, I'm on my cool J. Take pride in surviving the stakes as I take the ride. Just hoping don't break supply. First to rise, I want the whole cake, the pie. The lights are blinding, hold up, let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool. Ice, let me put my shades on. Yeah. It's cooler than being cool. 2 froze, shades on.
My hands, pockets in the spliffs, farther to your flow. Wards in the cliffs, I push off the cliff just to see what your falls like. I dare you to show your hands.
This is Gore with the Black Tea Sip. If you're just joining us, we are talking about the fact that Lizzo got to play a flute that's approximately 200 years old. It's a crystal flute. And if you didn't hear her, she said it was like playing the flute on a wine glass. And it was created by this French, artist. And his goal was to gift it to James Madison, the president of the United States, the 4th president of the United States, and congratulate him on his 2nd term. Now, here's what you need to know, because white America, the white supremacist part, not all white people, just the cuckoo one, they are in an uproar. I mean, it's worse than the Little Mermaid, because she is the first person to play it since James Madison received it, right? So here is the issue. James Madison got it and stuck it in a drawer. Yep, that's what it said. He received it, thanked him, shoved it in a drawer. It meant nothing to him, probably because he couldn't play it. But he couldn't even see the beauty of it. And it's priceless, but something about the aging of the glass, that it alone would be worth well over $200,000. But because of the historic value of it, this flute is priceless. Now, they say it's the only thing that survived, that and the portrait of George Washington. Now, the story is that Dolly Madison, the wife of James Madison, and y'all used to eat her little cupcakes? Yeah. That Dolly Madison. The story is that Dolly Madison saved it, which is also categorically unfreaking true. Dolly Madison ordered the slaves to stay behind in a burning building and get certain things. The velvet drapes, the flute, that's why it has a rip in that portrait of George Washington that hangs in the White House. It's torn because it was, they say, screwed to the wall, not nailed, but screwed. And so in order for them to actually get it and obtain it and take it with them, they had to tear it. That, and there was like dishes and silverware that she ordered them to give. So Dolly Madison didn't save diddly squat. Dolly Madison gave the order, excuse me, and the enslaved Africans executed during the War of 1812 when the British came in and started burning everything. That's what happened. Now, because there is a whitewashing of history in America, they are upset with Lizzo because she got to do something not only that they are not going to ever be able to do, but more importantly, they can't do. I told you I like to pass out trying to play the flute, and I had a whole teacher and everything. So where does that put black people? I mean, are we more on guard? Do we do things differently? No, we just continue to live in this country, laugh at the cuckoo birds, hope and pray that Donald Trump does not actually run in 2024 and certainly not win. I mean, those are, like we on the hope factor, not the wish factor. Usually we on the wish factor. I wish I would, but now we just like, oh dear God, please. We're on that. So Lizzo is just another, I guess the best word to use would be a demonstrative. She is another demonstration of how America feels about black people and their ability to achieve. So that brings me to racism. Racism is not necessarily about being afraid of black people, although white people are. It is not all white people, because y'all gonna get mad and the white ladies are gonna try to tell me about myself. If this doesn't apply to you, sir, ma'am, sir, then this doesn't apply to you. They are not just fearful, but their greatest fear is not about your physicality. It is not just about whether or not you have an ominous presence in media, in movies, in other mediums. It is about your ability to achieve. America is afraid that you can achieve no matter what. They are so concerned with the fact that you can do something given everything that's stacked against you, because they know that if the roles were reversed, they could not. This is not just about Lizzo playing the flute. This is about Lizzo and her ability to achieve. This is why I say that. Barack Obama ran for president and won. And you know what white America said? Well, he's not just black. His mother was white, because they want to take credit. Kamala Harris became the first female VP. And you know what they said? Well, she's not just black. She's South Pacific Asian. I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, no tea, no shade. I'm not trying to say I didn't know the people exist. I'm saying if you're Indian, we said you were Indian. We didn't know to say South Pacific Asian. Because now listen, I guess I'm going to show my ignorance. I never thought of Indian people as being Asian. I thought of Indian people as being Indian and from India. I thought of Asian people being from Asian countries, China, Vietnam, Japan, Taiwan. You know, that is what I thought. Never in a million years did I ever think about South Pacific Asian. Now, y'all can laugh at me and snicker if you want to. Y'all didn't think it either. So here is the difference between a Barack Obama and a Kamala Harris. Barack Obama talked about his grandparents were typical white people, which means they were racist. They just loved his little beige self. Then, you know, white folks do that. You do know that white people have levels of racism. Okay, as long as y'all know. You know, like they like Ken who talks with a certain dialect and vernacular that's comfortable to them, but they don't necessarily like Lamont who keeps it 1,000 in the office because Lamont doesn't code switch, right? And Lamont and Ken are very good friends. They see each other on the weekend outside of work. But Ken is keeping it 100 to keep his job, and Lamont is keeping it 1,000. Like, they don't like the 1,000 Lamont. They just like 100 Ken. All right, y'all understand where I'm going. So Barack Obama talked about his wife having the blood of slaves and slave owners running through her veins. So he pricked them. You know, like he thumbtacked them. Here's the difference. Kamala Harris, knowing that they're saying she's South Pacific Asian and knowing that she cannot live her life, be accepted, and achieve living South Pacific Asian, and all of her experiences outwardly have been black, Howard University, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, what's his name that used to be the mayor of San Francisco, Willie. You know, she was with him for a long time. You know, before she turned to white men. So she gets up and says, as a black woman, she shut it down. See, Barack let him say he was biracial. He played into it. He said he was biracial. She gave homage to her mother and her mother's culture, but she got out there and said, you know, I'm a black woman. That's what y'all see. That's how I live my life. There's the difference. Now, because we have had a black president and a black VP, first woman, first black, blah, blah, blah. Because that has happened, we are supposed to believe that racism is dead. Haley's boyfriend, Haley Bailey, who's playing the Mermaid, her boyfriend said on a podcast, he really thought that level of racism was over. And I was like, are you kidding me? Does this child not watch the news? And people said, no, that's unfair. These kids really don't understand. They've been insulated from it. Lies. I don't know how you insulated from it when Mike Brown got his hands up talking about don't shoot. You keep hearing about Eric Garner, I can't breathe. You see George Floyd calling for his mother with a knee on his neck for 9 minutes. I don't know how someone would believe, young or old, that racism is dead. It was almost like Uncle Ruckus from with Riley and them. Like I couldn't understand why the child would say that. Here's why. Because we have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, Plymouth rocked to the point where we are treating these things as separate, isolated instances instead of the collective conglomerate of racism that is happening in this country to us as a people. And we are not acknowledging and dealing with the post-traumatic stress that it's causing. Now, some of y'all gonna say you had post-traumatic stress because Lizzo was out there half naked. I don't care that she's a big woman. I personally don't even want to see Beyonce half naked. Like, I think everybody ought to wear clothes and cover their nakedness. And it's not because I have a problem with the human body. I think the human body is beautiful. I think God's creation of the human body is glorious. But I don't want to see everybody's everything. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you know, if I just want to see a naked body, I'd get naked and stand in the mirror. Like, I'm cool. So this is not necessarily about Lizzo and her lack of attire. Although I do think that because she has such a huge platform, I don't think you ought to give people ammunition to fight you. Because she's going to be somewhere crying in a minute on social media. So here we are dealing with young'uns that are saying, I thought, Haley Bailey's boyfriend, I thought that racism was over. I thought that ended with Martin Luther King. So we have done a piss poor job in educating our youth. Piss poor job. Because no child should say that. Now, I have children, 14 and 11, who could, literally speak to a diatribe of racism and the things that they've seen. So this is what I realized. When we are on social media pontificating about everything that's wrong, the social ills of this country, we are not tying it to anything that these children can actually understand, believe, apply, regurgitate in a meaningful, tangible way. We are not doing that. What we are doing is saying, okay, they're mad at Lizzo because she played a 200-year-old flute and she's a black woman. Bam, we leave it right there. We don't talk about Serena being booed as a kid, she and Venus playing tennis. We don't talk about Arthur Ashe playing tennis. We don't talk about Tiger Woods, even though this is a bad example, but I've started, so let me finish, because, he said he wasn't black, he was Caucasian. We don't talk about Tiger Woods when he was offended because they said when he won the Masters, they were going to have fried chicken and collard greens. When you win the Masters, you get to pick the meal for the champions. At the championship celebration, you get to pick the meal. And it was said that Tiger Woods would have fried chicken and collard greens. Well, that's not because he's Caucasian. I don't know where Tiger made this up from. It's not because he was Caucasian. It's because he was black. We are not tying these things to anything, so these kids really don't know. I mean, they see us marching in the street, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe. They see that, but they are not tying it to anything. And we're not tying it in a way that helps them understand. So I want to bless y'all with something, because I believe in, I used to be a teacher 100 years ago. I believe in giving you pearls of wisdom that you can scatter about. Right now, there is a case going on in Alabama because a man who had property and a well on his land, John Hill, I believe is his name, and everybody got their water because it was clean water in this well. Everybody got their water from his well. They were welcome on his property to draw from his well, but he owned the property and owned the house, and he raised his children there. When the University of Alabama decided that they wanted his land because it had a clean water source, they condemned, because he fought back, they condemned the land, and then they put him out of his house, and he ended up having to move to a nearby house and sharecrop on that land. He lost his land, so now he's sharecropping, which means he basically has to pick enough crop to be able to pay for his living arrangements and make a profit. Sharecropping is just another way to be enslaved. So, with that being said, the same thing happened, because I told you, State Fair of Texas, the same thing happened to black people in Dallas, Texas. When the Fair Park decided they wanted to build that parking lot off of Robert B. Cullum and MLK Boulevard, the homeowners there were black. Some they tried to buy off if you didn't take the low money, because it wasn't enough money for you to relocate. If you didn't take the low money, they condemned the house and put you out of it with nothing. So this is not an Alabama thing. This is an America thing. So once they put you out of your house and they condemn your home, you cannot live in it anymore. And then the city takes it over. So you don't get anything for your land or your house. So in the University of Alabama, they said they would give this man's family a plaque in recognition. The registration building for the University of Alabama is built on this man's land. They want to give him a plaque and recognition. I don't know how you eat off a plaque. And I don't know about y'all, but my kids are used to making turds 3 times a day. So that requires money and the grocery store. You cannot eat a plaque. Recognition means nothing. And the reason recognition means nothing, because most of the PWIs, predominantly white institutions, throughout this nation have been built on the backs and suffering of black people. Okay. So you say, well, what you want them to do? I want them to compensate these people. Here's what I know. Princeton University, 4 or 5 years ago, did a study. The black students there did a study. Don't you love smart black people? And they did a study to demonstrate how Princeton University had benefited from the enslaved and African Americans in this country. And what they came up with was the $1 billion endowment that Princeton has could only have been acquired through and by free labor. The University of Alabama is no different. We have a gleaming evidence that the University of Alabama stole this man's land, built their little funky registration office on it, stole a clean water source from several black families, leaving them without a clean water source for their own purposes. I'm saying all that to say we are not doing a good job. Lil Haley Bailey, who was experiencing racism because of the Little Mermaid boyfriend, doesn't have this information. He thought racism died with Martin Luther King. This is Gore with the Black Tea Sip. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back. Stay fair, Texas, y'all.
Nourished skin is healthy skin. Simply Ardor skincare products provides luxurious nourishment for your body. Indulge in rich scrubs and body butters, and top it off with our sensational and unique aromatic lines of sprays and roll-on fragrances. It's simple and lovely. Simply Ardor. Love is real. Just spread it.
Over a year ago, we gave you the marquee. Booth of Vandross and his bros and queens. Abundantly satisfying, we did more than please. Made you party a bit and put your mind at ease. And then we spoke on everything else in between. We ain't come for the shine, but we left with the rated highly approved. Put you back in the mood. Gave it to DJs and put the needle to the groove. All star, all minus, all par. Booth of V, Q, and we are loose cannons, no comparisons by far. We do what we do when we are who we are. Dope music, high jump, raise the bar. So soothing, we do what they are. The vision would seem like Stevie and Ray Charles. In the hazy room, fat sacks and fat gauze. Yeah.
Back to back nights partying. Only stop to pray and then we start again. Just live today and let the rest go. We already know the way, baby, let's roll. And get back to the groove. Back to the basics, back in the mood. Back to the music, back to the truth. Back to the proof, I'll be watching over you. Coming back, things, big dreams, I'm still big, and it's the big time. Bright lights in the big city, big ego. Pockets getting bigger, big Nino. Big under pressure, hit some pretty big free throws. I've been cold, started a fire, still froze. I am someone you should admire. The eye of the tiger. From now on, address me as sire. The situation could be more dire. Deep sea diver, from out the frying pan to the fire. MCs be like backseat drivers, tell them buckle up. Big trucks, we riding big wheels. Big pump, big tuck, bitch, I'm a big deal. Bigger the cap, the bigger the billing. The bigger her ass, the better the feeling.
All right, and we're back. This is called the Black Tea Sip. If you're just joining us, we are talking about how America is continuing to show us who she really is. And it's certainly not the lady with an arm in the air talking about bring us your tired, your hungry, your huddled masses. That's for them folk. That's not for us. And so, I feel like we have done a disservice to the generations that came after the era of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Like, we've done a disservice. Like, we have not Angela Davis'd this enough, right? Because you have youngins talking about they thought that that racism was over, like this kind of race. Like, racism exists, but not this kind of hatred and vitriol. And it's mostly because white America, the white supremacists, truly believe that they are ultimately entitled to everything that is in media, that is on the internet, that is in the public and any platform. So there's not only a sense of entitlement, there is this disbelief that anybody else ever created or did anything, right? That is kind of where that stems from. So with that being said, you have Lizzo, as I started at the beginning of the show, playing James Madison's flute, the flute that he put in the drawer. And they're in uproar. Here's why we know that they're ridiculous. Who even knew, other than Carla Hayden and the people that work at the Library of Congress, who even knew that this crystal flute existed? I'm a history major. I never heard of it. So you really are not upset about it. What you're upset about is somebody white didn't do it before. So you have this black first. Because this whitewashing of America, which I've talked about before, there was this thing in the antebellum South all the way through, and it really kind of, antebellum South, there was kind of a whitewashing with Robert E. Lee, and then it reemerged in the 30s when the Ku Klux Klan started to organize. There's this idea that no one has done anything other than white people. People get mad when they say Cleopatra. Don't. She was a pudgy, ugly white woman, Greek ancestry. Don't be mad about that. Be mad when they try to say Queen Sheba, for those of you that are, Bible thumpers. Be mad when they say the Queen of Sheba because she married King David, and Jesus Christ, Yeshua, for those of you that believe, is a direct descendant of the Ethiopian Queen of Sheba. Be mad if they whitewash that. Be mad if they whitewash Nefertiti, who was supposedly the most beautiful woman in the world. Be mad about that. Do not be mad because these other characters they want to take ownership of them. Let them have them. However, the thing y'all should be talking about is, well, Jesus is not white. And, to me, that's the main one. The Little Mermaid, let's just shrug our shoulders at that. Let's let them, go on their diatribes and pontificate about what's wrong. But when it comes to history, and when white people are not necessarily wrong, let's not have a fight about it. Because what it does is it dilutes and dampens our real arguments that hold merit and weight. Like, for instance, this thing about a Woman King, Viola Davis movie. The Dahomey tribe. The Dahomey tribe were responsible for approximately, historically, 20% of all enslaved people being shipped away from Africa to the New World, which was the colonies and now the United States of America. Now, you got a lot of people saying, oh, they changed history. Listen, that is not our burden to bear, nor is our problem to solve. White folks been changing history since the dawn of time. Let Viola and her crew change history. Just know what the history is. The Dahomey tribe is responsible for 20% of enslaved people. And yes, they were warrior women, which was not necessarily unheard of in Africa, because the African philosophy was not to beat down women, demean women, put them under your foot. That's not necessarily the African philosophy. That was more of a European philosophy, and dare I say, Middle Eastern and South Pacific Asian philosophy, and Asian philosophy. It wasn't necessarily an African philosophy. Women had their place, ergo woman king. But we need to understand, when you have these arguments with people, because some of y'all out here arguing because I'm seeing it on social media, when you have these arguments with people about what enslavement meant in Africa, and the Dahomey tribe is responsible for a lot of it, even after slavery was quote unquote abolished, because their idea of enslavement in Africa, not specifically the Dahomey tribe, in Africa, was that you could later become a part of the tribe, like they demonstrated in the movie. For those of you who have seen it, spoiler alert, I'm sorry. You could, over time, like an indentured servant, become a part of that community. The idea that they were putting them in ships like sardines and that many of them were dying and throwing themselves overboard came much later, and some tribes didn't know it. once tribes started to find out, they did do something different. Now, for those Caucasians with the caucasity to demonstrate the Dahomey tribe, they are not being, should I say, completely accurate, fair, and truthful. I think we need to do a better job about understanding our history and understanding who we are as a people. And by that, I mean stop letting people from the Caribbean and other parts of the African diaspora tell you as a Black American you don't have culture. Yes, you do. You have invented the culture. Your ancestors who were enslaved, or your ancestors who were already here, Black Native Americans, who were already here, who survived, helped create and carve out a culture of our own. And so you have the African American experience. Do not let them tell you that anymore, because I'm sick of it personally. But we need to do a better job as African American people living through our experiences to pull from history so that we have something to tell these youngsters. So that when we start to defend Lizzo and her playing of James Madison's flute, we say things like, the flute was actually invented in Africa. It is only right for Lizzo to play it. It was certainly not called a flute in Africa, but the premise of the flute that could be created by a French artist or a sculptor or glass creator, whatever you want to term him, the fact that he and others could create a flute came from an instrument in Africa. We should be able to tell them in country music that the reason that this bluegrass grew is because it came from someone Black who created the banjo. It had more strings, but it was circular, and it was basically the same instrument. We should be able to tell them without telling them your mama, although I think that's very effective. We should be able to tell them where their lies originate on the continent. Stop arguing with these people on social media. Tell them to sit at your feet and be educated. Explain to them that the French creator of this flute, that it was not appreciated because it was stuck in a drawer and it did not reemerge until 1812 when the British came to burn everything down. Explain to them that if it had not been for the enslaved persons, Lizzo would not have been able to play it. And so by right of her destiny and the fulfillment of her Black prophecy, she gets to play it because it was her ancestors that saved it. This is Gore with the Black Tea Sip. We'll do it again, same bat time, same bat channel. Don't forget to like the show. Don't forget to check out the other shows, and we are moving to a podcast soon, so we are splitting the show. Instead of doing 2 full hours, we will do 2 53 minutes. This is Gore with the Black Tea Sip. The Black Tea Sip store is coming soon. Mwah!